In the Middle Ages, written word was a luxury. Before medieval manuscripts, most knowledge was passed down orally. Stories, laws, and histories were memorized and recited. The problem with knowledge being passed down orally is that human memory is fallible. We forget things, we lie and love to exaggerate to capture the listener's attention. But as we evolved as a society, the need for a more reliable way to record information became evident. Religious institutions in particular saw the value in having their sacred texts written down. This shift from oral to written culture marked the beginning of a new era. Many religious monasteries in the medieval age had a scriptorium, which was the beating heart of manuscript production. In the scriptorium, scribes dedicated themselves to copying text by hand. Their days were long and laborious. These scribes start working before dawn and often end late at night. They copied everything from religious texts to scientific treatises, ensuring that knowledge was preserved and passed on. Manuscripts weren't just about words, they were also about art. Some scribes also had special skills. They were illuminators. I would say they were the modern-day equivalent of graphic designers. These talented artists added a splash of color and creativity to the pages, turning texts into visual masterpieces. The art the illuminators created ranged from intricate initials and decorative borders to full-page illustrations. Gold leaf, vibrant pigments, and meticulous brushwork transformed these books into objects of beauty. The Book of Kells, with its stunningly intricate designs, is one of the most famous examples of this art form. While the main text of manuscripts was serious business, the margins were a different story. Marginalia refers to the notes, comments, doodles, and illustrations found in the margins of manuscripts and books. Historically, Marginalia served various purposes ranging from personal annotations and scholarly commentary to whimsical drawings and humorous sketches. The quirky, little drawings and notes scribbled in the margins gives us a glimpse into the daily lives, humor, and creativity of the scribes and readers. Marginalia can range from serious scholarly notes to playful and fantastical images. They were a way for scribes to inject a bit of personality and humor into their work, reminding us that even in the Middle Ages, people had a sense of fun. Imagine being a medieval scribe. Your days are filled with the painstaking task of copying text by hand, letter by letter. It's tedious, it's repetitive, and let's face it, it's a bit boring. So what do you do to keep your sanity intact? You let your imagination run wild in the margins, of course. Doodles and sketches in the medieval manuscripts are like little windows into the minds of those who created them. These scribbles range from simple geometric patterns to elaborate scenes featuring all sorts of bizarre and humorous characters. It's as if the margins became a playground for creativity where anything was possible. One of the most delightful aspects of Marginalia doodles is the array of fantastical creatures that inhabit these spaces. Dragons, unicorns, and strange hybrid animals pop up alongside the text, often interacting with the letters and words in playful ways. These creatures weren't just for fun. They sometimes held symbolic meanings or were used to convey moral lessons in an entertaining way. Take the Ghost and Psalter for example. This 14th century manuscript is famous for its whimsical marginalia, including a scene where a rabbit rides a hound like a knight on horseback. It's absurd and funny. Although in medieval bestiaries, books about animals, rabbits were often associated with timidity and vulnerability, while hounds were seen as symbols of hunting and aggression. By reversing these roles and placing a rabbit in a position of power and control, the artist could be playing with ideas of hierarchy and power dynamics, turning the expected order on its head. The rabbit and hound could also represent specific allegorical meanings, possibly related to religious or moral lessons. Medieval art often used animals symbolically, so the image could be a visual metaphor for a deeper philosophical or theological concept. On a more mundane level, these images might simply reflect the creativity and boredom of the scribes. Working long hours on repetitive tasks, scribes might have used the margins as a space to let their imaginations run wild, resulting in these whimsical and fantastical scenes. Medieval doodles weren't just about mythical creatures, they also depicted scenes from everyday life. Monks and nuns could be seen engaging in all sorts of activities, from playing musical instruments to, surprisingly, battling giant snails. One of the most puzzling and amusing recurring themes in Marginalia is the battle between knights and snails. Scholars have debated the meaning behind these snail fights. One theory suggests that the snail represents a slow but persistent threat, possibly symbolizing the inevitability of death or the creeping danger of sin. The knights battling snails could symbolize the struggle against these evil forces. In some interpretations, the snail is seen as a symbol of laziness, cowardice, or heresy. Knights fighting snails might represent the righteous combat against these vices or heretical beliefs. These interpretations align with the moral and religious teachings of the time. Some scholars believe these images might have been intended as visual puzzles or in-jokes among the scribes and illuminators. Just like the way we share memes today, it could be something similar. Like modern memes, the image of knights battling snails appear in numerous manuscripts across medieval Europe. This repetition, often with slight variations, suggests that the motif was widely recognized and appreciated. The absurdity of brave knights fighting harmless snails would have been humorous to medieval audiences. This use of humor to convey a message or entertain is a hallmark of meme culture. And like many modern memes that comment on social or political issues through satire, the snail battles could have served as a subtle critique of contemporary societal norms or behaviors. The exaggerated scenarios might have poked fun at the chivalric ideals of the knights or the futility of certain conflicts. For a meme to be effective, it requires a shared cultural context that gives it meaning. The widespread depiction of this motif of a knight fighting a snail suggests that medieval audiences shared a common understanding or appreciation of the underlying joke or commentary. Sometimes, the sketches on the margins were on grotesque and monsters. The scribes would often populate the margins of medieval manuscripts with hybrid creatures. This could be anything from dragons and griffins to more outlandish combinations of animals and humans. The mix and match approach to creating grotesque meant endless possibility. You might find a lion with wings, a fish with a human face, or a rabbit jousting with a snail. Each creature was unique. It showcased the artist's imagination and skill. Grotesques and monsters in the margins of medieval manuscripts could have served various purposes and held multiple interpretations. They could represent moral and religious symbolism, illustrating the battle between good and evil or reinforcing biblical stories and moral lessons. These bizarre figures might also have been social and political commentary. The scribes might have been subtly critiquing authority figures and societal norms through satire. They could have also been allegorical or literary references drawing on folklore, mythology, and contemporary literature to enrich the manuscript's contents. Overall, these fantastical creatures add depth, complexity, and a touch of playfulness to medieval manuscripts, making them a fascinating subject of study. Michael Camille's seminal work, Image on the Edge, The Margins of Medieval Art, argues that the margins of medieval manuscripts were spaces where artists and scribes could critique, parody, and challenge societal norms. To fully appreciate the significance of Marginalia, it's essential to understand the historical context in which these artworks were created. Medieval Europe was a time of significant social, religious, and cultural transformation. The margins of manuscripts provided a unique space where artists and scribes could express ideas that were often subversive or outside the mainstream. These marginalia illustrations and annotations allowed for a form of silent resistance against the rigid structures of medieval society. There are several famous manuscripts known for their marginalia. One of the most celebrated examples of marginalia is found in the Luttrell Psalter, created in the early 14th century. Commissioned by Sir Geoffrey Luttrell, a wealthy English landowner, this psalter is renowned for its vibrant and imaginative illustrations that fill the margins of nearly every page. The marginalia in the Luttrell Psalter includes scenes of everyday life, such as farming and feasting, as well as visuals of saints, ornate designs of interlacing vines, leaves, and geometric borders that enhance the manuscript's visual appeal. The Book of Kells, an illuminated manuscript of the 4 Gospels of the New Testament, is another masterpiece featuring remarkable marginalia. Created by Celtic monks around the 9th century, this manuscript is famous for its intricate and elaborate decorations. While the main text is beautifully adorned with ornate initials and interlacing patterns, the margins are filled with a variety of illustrations. The marginalia in the Book of Kells often serves to reinforce the religious themes of the central text, using symbolic imagery to convey spiritual messages. For example, the recurring motif of the fish, a symbol of Christ, appears frequently in the margins. The playful and dynamic nature of the illustrations also reflects the monks' deep devotion and artistic skill, making the Book of Kells one of the most treasured examples of medieval manuscript art. The Gustin Psalter, created in the early 19th century in England, is another manuscript renowned for its rich marginalia. One of the most famous images from the Gustin Psalter is a depiction of a fox carrying a goose. There is also this sketch that I can't even describe. Looks like a doodle of a man eating another man from his rear end. Crazy stuff. Marginalia in medieval manuscripts offers a unique and valuable perspective on the artistic, social, and cultural life of the medieval period. Next time you pick up an old book, don't just read between the lines. Take a peek at the margins. You might just find a hidden world of imagination waiting to surprise you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Who knows what other gems we'll uncover next?